The first full length animated film in history was about a girl, seven dwarfs, and a poisoned apple. In 1937, Walt Disney's dream came to life. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was more than a movie, it was a milestone. A fairy tale that defined childhood for generations, a film that built an empire. 80 years later, Disney tried to reimagine it, but what followed wasn't magic, it was a meltdown. In the midst of Great Depression, when America was struggling to find hope, something magical happened. Walt Disney, a dreamer with a vision few believed in, took a massive gamble. He poured every penny he had, even mortgaged his home, to create something the world had never seen before. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs wasn't just a movie, it was a revolution. It was the birth of a new art form, hand-drawn by over 750 animators, colored by hand, framed by painstaking frame. It brought the fairy tale to life in a way no one thought was possible. Snow White became the voice of a generation and of generations to come. Her song was not just about a prince, but about hope, that better days are coming, that goodness would be rewarded. For nearly 9 decades, Snow White stood as the very first Disney princess, a symbol of purity and goodness, the fairy tale blueprint. When Disney announced a live-action remake of Snow White, it wasn't a surprise. They had already reimagined Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, and many more. Each time with bigger budgets, bolder effects, and bolder changes. But this remake would be different. From the beginning, the signs were there. This wasn't a tribute, it was a transformation. The original Snow White was gentle, kind, and quietly resilient. But in the 2025 version, she would be radically different. She is not waiting to be saved, the star said in early press. She is not dreaming of true love, she is dreaming of becoming a leader. These words sparked a wildfire. For some, it was refreshing, a princess rewritten for a new era, but for others, it felt like erasure, not evolution. But it wasn't just Snow White who was changed. The prince removed, the dwarfs reimagined into a diverse group of magical forest beings, not small in stature, not even all male. Disney said that it wanted to avoid stereotypes to make the tale more inclusive, but critics argued it stripped the characters from their original charm and purpose. Soon, Snow White became more than a movie, it became a battlefield in the culture war. Disney insisted that it was crafting a princess for today's girls. But millions of fans, parents, artists, and longtime Disney loyalists asked, why can't today's girl also be kind, soft-spoken, and hopeful? Why must strength be loud to be real? When Disney unveiled its new lead for the new Snow White, it didn't just cast a role, it lit a spark. Rachel Ziegler, a rising star, talented, charismatic, a voice that captured Broadway, but to many, she wasn't the Snow White they'd grown up with. And when that detail was changed, some asked, does accuracy no longer matter in storytelling?
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
To her supporters, it was empowering. A new kind of princess, strong, independent, modern, but to critics it was dismissive, unnecessary, even condescending. In her efforts to be honest, some felt she crossed into mockery. The prince, a joke. The love story, creepy. The original Snow White, weak, outdated, and forgettable. What was meant to uplift ended up dividing. A generation that adored Ziegler in West Side Story was now questioning, why did she take this role if she hated the story it came from? In the 2025 adaptation of Snow White, one of the most controversial changes came where the iconic Seven Dwarfs were notably absent. While the original Disney animated classic gave away lovable, quirky characters who provided both comic relief and emotional support for Snow White, this new version reimagines the dwarfs entirely, removing them from the story altogether. The decision to exclude the dwarfs sparked immediate backlash from fans of the original tale. In this new rendition, the dwarfs are replaced by a different set of characters, significantly altering the dynamic Snow White shares with them. Some report even suggests that this change was made to make the story feel more modern and progressive, but the execution left many viewers disappointed. The filmmakers may have intended to offer a fresh take on the fairy tale, but by sidelining the dwarfs, they lost a piece of the magic. Audiences, especially long-time fans, are left wondering why such a critical change was made, and whether the loss of these beloved characters truly served the story's greater purpose. The Snow White movie has not only sparked controversy among fans, but has also put the studio behind it into a full-blown crisis. From a marketing perspective to creative decision-making, the once promising project has become a textbook example of a high-stakes disaster, leading to intense scrutiny and damaging backlash. The removal of the seven dwarfs, a beloved part of the original story, is just the tip of the iceberg in a series of ill-advised decisions that have left the studio scrambling to contain the fallout. At the heart of this crisis is a significant identity shift within the studio. Historically known for creating magical retellings of classic fairy tales, the studio has positioned Snow White as one of its major tentpoles in a new wave of live-action adaptations. However, the production has faced multiple missteps, leaving both fans and industry insiders questioning the direction it has taken. The studio's marketing strategy has been just as disastrous. What should have been an exciting promotional campaign for a much-anticipated film quickly turned into a series of awkward and tone-deaf promotional moves. Each trailer received backlash for presenting a Snow White who seemed disconnected from the whimsical fairy tale world that made the original so enchanting. The absence of key elements like the dwarfs or the magical forest left audiences puzzled about what the film was even trying to be. Moreover, the studio's public relations team has struggled to handle the constant flood of criticism, leading to more negative headlines than positive buzz. Statements made by executives defending the creative direction have only fueled the fire, as they are often seen as dismissive of the very fans that made the original Snow White a global success. The 2025 Snow White movie is a glaring example of how well-intentioned and creative decisions can go horribly wrong, leading to a massive backlash that impacts not only the studio but the entire entertainment industry. The fallout from the 2025 Snow White serves as a cautionary tale for future projects. The entertainment industry has learned a hard lesson about the risk of overhauling beloved stories without a clear, unified vision, and the importance of understanding the emotional connection audiences have with classic narratives. This crisis highlights the delicate balance between innovation and nostalgia, and the consequences of failing to get it right. As the dust settles, the film will likely remain a case study for both studios and creatives in how not to approach a reimagining of a classic. But it also serves as a reminder, in today's industry, staying true to the heart of the story and its characters is just as important as pushing boundaries and making bold creative choices.